Sorry if I'm talking in kind of short words every other second. Basically, what I am doing is I am talking very shortly. The seed I have is very secret, and I will not be sharing it. I apologize. It is one of my favorite seeds. It's the only one that has large overhangs throughout the whole map. I will not be teaching. I will not be showing you guys this seed. I'm very sorry about that. All builds will be added to a schematic though when I feel it is necessary to add them. But today we will be learning about good ways to build houses, how to use what you should have dimensions as, in good tips. The first thing I shall teach you is that when building you should always have it always be an odd number, like so. The reason for this is building with an even number can sometimes wreck a build, though most of the time it just depends on how big you want your house. It is possible to work with an even number. It's just the build usually doesn't turn out as good because it's basically always going to be a duplicate of one half on this side and one half on this side. Because to make it look nice, you're going to want them to look the same. So building with even numbers is a good idea. Now, you can usually just throw a house together if you're really there. If you really need to. This will save you. This is a good idea for a little house that you're not going to be living in any longer. It won't really matter, though you will want to live in a nice house at some point in time. There are many design plans that you can follow to build amazing houses. This is a very simple, ugly, but easy to build house if you're in a struggle. Of course, there always is the cave house you can build, which is inside the wall, which I'm sorry for that short lag. I'm guaranteeing my Fraps has just created a new file, but let's just move on. So basically, right here, right there, you could build a cave house, which we will be going into next episode. But for this episode, we are going to be building a very nice house, and I'll be showing you some techniques that you can use when building wood. If there's anything else you guys would like to learn about, please let me know. So, building a log cabin. That is what we will be teaching today, by the way, is a log cabin. And building a log cabin, you think that you would want to use this. But to be honest, that really just depends on if you like the side texture. Me personally, I do not like the side texture. I like to use up and down textures. I am from the original Minecraft, and this is just what I am used to. We are all based to our own opinions. If you do not like it, then you do not like it, and there's nothing wrong with that. First off, we will want to build a base. Now, recall, we always want to try to build with an odd number, which means 4 on this side, 4 on this side, but always having a middle. Now you might think, oh, I have this done, we can just build a square now. That is not what you exactly want to do. You don't always want a plain square. You can try to get creative with your shape when you need to. As you can see, I have centered this again, but now we're going to try to get creative. We're going to take off 2 of this side and go build out this side real quick. As you can see, it's aligned perfectly. This side will look nice, and this side will look nice. But notice, there is one thing. When you're building with an even number, excuse me, when you're building with an even number, it will be very hard to match up things. So, like I keep saying, try to build with an odd number when you can. Now, if you really want to get creative with your shape, you can try making it a little unique to your own personality. You can do this, and this can turn into loads of things. You can expand this a little longer, but for now, we're just going to be building with this. Now, this is going to look like a nice house at first. A pretty bad looking house at first. But now, we're going to have to start using different colors. If we just use the same texture in every single area, it won't look good. It's just a giant blob of something you just found laying around. What you'll want to do is change it up, but make sure it looks nice. What I prefer to do is when you're using an oak log, I like to use oak planks, though you can differentiate into this, which is a darker color, which also still looks nice. It still has that dark feeling. You can also use birch if you really want to for a nice light color. You can also use a type of reddish wood, which still looks nice. Oak logs are some of the most common blocks you can find in this place, and at all times you can use this. They're really not rare to find, though in all different biomes it wouldn't really matter. You can also use this for also another layout of the base, which is perfectly fine. Which either one you want to use is perfectly up to you. It just depends on what biome you're working in. I'll give you an example later of what I mean. Let's start splitting up it. We'll put that there. Now you're probably wondering why I have a 3 block door space with a 1 by 3 area. That will all come into perfect design when I am done explaining what I am doing. Now, when you're trying to build, you can do anything. For example, you could do this, and then continue with the pattern. And you could do this. By doing that, you can use a nice pattern, but that does not always have to be the case. You can also change the pattern a little bit and use that. You get a large window this way, and a very nice open window, which you can add special things to that certain area to make it look nicer, while continuing a different pattern on this side. Now, if you really want to, you could try to make this work by continuing this pattern on this side. But as you can see, it won't look as good. You could use this in a situation when this whole side is up against, let's say, a mountain. If this is up against a mountain, you could use this, because there's no point in having a window looking at a rock. So you could use this to look out this way, and this side could all just be plain though, you would not just want to use that. You would want to give it some type of texture, which I'll show you later with wood. Now, let's continue by taking that down and coming over here. Let's build this up. Now, we're at a kind of a curve right here. What we will have to do is find some way to turn this into a beautiful area. Now, terraforming is always necessary in a lot of builds. Not all the time, but most of the time it is. Every now and then you have to terraform. But when terraforming, you want to make it still look nice. You don't want a nice sheer cliff right by your door, right by your house. It will not look good. You want it built on a nice plateau. Very nice, very pleasant to look at. Even when you're on an angle. If you're looking at an angle and you just see a giant side cliff that's just straight and no texture, no indents in it at all, then it will not look as good. Believe it or not, the terrain around you will affect your build a little bit. You have to build it in a good situation when you're building a house. It will affect your build in some way. But to curve this build, all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it in like this. By doing that, it'll look nicer, because if we just built a window here, you'd also be seeing this. This is just the base. You don't always want to just see a wall for your window. And that is a good way to separate it. Now, this is also a tricky part. You can put these here, but then suddenly you got a square again. There is something you can do to fix this. By doing that, we just added a little more curve to it, but also being connected, which means now we can turn this into a very nice window. Let me set this back to day. If I really want to, I can eventually just set up a command block to turn it to day when it gets too close to night, which I eventually will do. As you can see now, we have a nice window, but there's only one problem. This window would look fantastic if it was facing this way. Why wouldn't you want to see a nice view like that? This window will not work here, which is very disappointing, but you have to learn that sometimes your build won't always work the way you want it to, unless you don't mind having a window facing dirt and rock. Of course, you could always tear down the build, or use any type of editor to turn your building to this way, but then you're still facing that. You can also just use it to face it this way and put it somewhere different. If I were to be building this home on this plateau, this would look nice, because this window would be facing this way. You would have a beautiful view of trees and a mountain over there. You would have a view of a pine forest and a nice lake, which is also a nice thing. This window will not work. Now, what we'll do is we will continue to add some touches to our build to make it look nice. The cottage has to look somewhat nice, somewhat cozy. Now, what you can do is you can just do this to fill this in. That won't look as good. That does not look good at all. Now we're going to have to add a different window to the top to continue the build. For the time being, that's all we'll be able to do with that until we get a nice settled roof on the place to start adding more texture into that area. More colors sometimes is bad as well. If I just started using this randomly in the building, it will not look good, because mainly birchwood is not a good log to look at. No one really likes this log, and I understand why. But sometimes, if you really want, you can have it. But it will not look as good with the colors. You could use this, and this wouldn't look as bad just because it's a dark log, but it also still has a nice, it really cuts the textures in half, which is not a bad idea either. There. So now we have a nice, very nice build right here. It's very cozy and very relaxing to look at. You can use this for multiple things, and I'll be showing you how to decorate this house in a bit. Now we're not gonna just... I'm sorry about that lag. We're gonna want to change it up, but we don't really want that, now do we? Excuse me while I reset Fraps. I'm getting a bit of problems with it. Give me 1 second. I'm not sure if that really fixed it yet. I'll have to watch my frame rate. But what we're gonna use is a dark one. I'm actually gonna want than a light one. I'm sorry for my frame rate. The noise is gonna be they will not. I really hope you guys are not hearing that. Seems there's an underground lake right here. Or a little pool of water down there. There we go. We finished. Now, what I prefer to do is I like to use these planes mainly because they're cheap to make without using the big blocks of glass. And they also add a nice indent into it, which I, in my own personality, like. Now, we no longer need you. So we'll go into here and we'll grab a glass block and put you here. Now, we can just press O and skip that. Now, as you can see, we got a nice lookout. It's very nice, very, very nice. Now right here, we don't have to close. We can actually use this if we want. This does not belong. There we go. But let's try to do the same over here. Now, that looks nice. Now let's start putting some, let's put the roof on, shall we? Now, we're going to want this to match as much as possible. So let's add another layer of log. Adding this layer of log will make it very nice, because it will be even. Don't worry, that will not be there forever. Now, if you go up here, now even me, I like to consider myself a good builder, but even though it's a bad, that may look bad, it could end up being bad. Sometimes, when building, you recall things you've done before, and then when you're done building, you're like, that is why I didn't do it this way. Because you can't always remember what you did wrong and what you did right. Now, it is going to look bad for a bit until we add the finishing touches. Let's get working on the roof. We did not use these, so we will not be needing those. I have no idea why I'm getting this bad lag. I usually don't get this. I'll be right back. I have no idea if that just fixed it or ruined it. We'll find out. Though it did help my frame rate quite a bit. So, what we're going to need is some stairs. I think I'm going to have to break this up into another episode. this will be part 1 of building with logs. Because at this point in time, I think I just have too much files. Oh, my frame rate just jumped back up. That's good. Okay. Now, we're going to use a dark wood for our roof, actually. I like to use stairs for my builds. That can add really nice touch to it. But we are going to have to cut this off and do another episode. And I hope you stop by for part 2.